Well, hello. I am John Stark, a blind film critic, and I am going to review Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. But maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm going to talk about studio interference with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll talk about how Warner Brothers and DC and James Gunn all interfered and made this movie terrible, and it's all their fault. And we don't know how hard it was for James Wan to make this film. Or perhaps I'll just talk about the film, because that's what we do, is to talk about the film. And I'm not gonna try to gaslight you into believing that James Wan overnight became a shitty director. I didn't even hate this film that much. So maybe that's the route to go. Just thoughts on film criticism. Anyway, this is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It stars Jason Momoa, Patrick Wilson, Yahya Abdul Mateen, Nicole Kidman, um, Martin Short. Listen, I wasn't expecting it either. Okay, he's credited, and Randall Park is yeah, because he can't just be in, yeah, so he's got to be in both universes. Anyway, Randall Park. Who else we got in here? Dolph Lundgren. There's this other person. I feel like I've heard her name before, but I just can't put my name on. Can't put a name to the face to the character. It's tough. It's really tough. Anyway, and it is directed by James Wan, and it does have audio description by Deluxe and the wonderful John Bentley. If you watched my other review of Aquaman, you'll notice that I noted the films have the same narrator. So if you want to double feature these for any reason in your life, it'll just sound just seamless, just moving on through. Um, yeah, so this film has kind of had a rough time. It didn't quite do what it was supposed to do at the box office. I think that has more to do with the fact that DC keeps ambiguously abandoning things so that they can prepare for James Gunn. So this is kind of just their fault in a different way than other people have made videos about. This is sort of like when you start being really specific about who and who will not be making the cut next time around, and you still have films left to release, and you're not being very solid about the future of those franchises and those actors. It's sort of like, and I do this quite often with TV shows. If I'm in the middle of binge watching something that had a like dropped its entire season, right? I don't binge watch, actually. I don't watch all my shows at the same time. I do it normally, like one episode a week. So if a streaming service can't wait long enough for me to finish the season, if I'm like kind of into it, I'm not going to come back. I'm just going to be like, well, this is a waste of time. I just won't finish the series because it's not going to get renewed. So who cares how it ends? And I'm not really that into it. I finished the ones I'm really into. Don't worry. I mean, I know people are like, that's terrible. Artists made that. It's like, yeah, but they're the ones where you're like, I want to see how the season plays out. Then we'll figure out whether or not I want to come back for a second one. And those are the ones where it's like, I feel like that's the death knell, so to speak, when those series get canceled, because I just drop out. It's just, I don't know. No, never mind. You want to cancel it? Fine. I'm not going to watch the rest of it. Um, a great example of that would be there was a TV show, what was it, like Promised Land or something like that? It was on ABC, and ABC abandoned it and sent it to Hulu. It was like after 3 episodes, and then it became like a Hulu series. And I was like, no. That's it cannot be a good sign for that show. And I was already sort of like, so I didn't watch the rest on Hulu. So, um, yeah, it's kind of like, what's the point if James Gunn is like, yeah, we're gonna release this film, but we're not making more Aquaman with James Wan and Jason Momoa. It's just not a thing we're gonna do. Sorry, guys. Then what's the point? I mean, I know they had a huge problem with Blue Beetle because he didn't even have fans. So they had to jump in and be like, yes, we're going to use Blue Beetle again. Don't worry. Uh, so that they could at least keep one hero from pre James Gunn. But yeah, this did suffer, and I am actually talking about it from the studio, from James Gunn and his wishy washy bullshit. He either needed to not say anything and not be like, okay, so not those people, not, no, we're not using them, no, we'll use this person, not, no, or something, because he just basically left films to die, and that's what's hurting Warner Brothers. It's probably the reason why we don't have a Batgirl film, to be totally honest, that film that got made and nobody will ever get to see. So, eh, it's there is some truth here. It's funny that there's a video about Madam Web that talks about studio interference, but for some reason nobody wanted to talk about in the most obvious film, which is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which is feels like everybody just gave up. Like it feels like during the film James was like, "What happened to my butt? Where's my crew? Where did everybody go?" Like his budget just shrank while he was still shooting the film. Feels like they came into the editing bay while he was editing this and they were like, James, we're gonna need whatever you got right now. Well, I'm still editing. No, no, just give it to me. Just give me your film. I'm also gonna need your ID and pass, and you're not allowed on set anymore. um, it feels rushed. It kind of feels like, well, this is the sequel. The one thing that I will say is, unlike Shazam Fury of the Gods, which struggled from introducing us to new villains when it promised us that it would continue the saga of Mark Strong's character, um, this one does actually continue the story from the original. So James Wan does actually hold up his end of the bargain and actually try to make a sequel that is a direct sequel to the original, and does actually bring back uh, Black Manta, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen, and give him a front and center approach. The problem is that it also basically tries to completely rewrite Patrick Wilson's character, as if as if we just didn't see the first film, and he becomes a good guy way too fast in this. Like, the brotherly relationship between these two is probably one of the weakest things about the film. Also, and I joked around, and I'll say her name because it's been long enough. This part of the reason I was joking has to do with the fact that Amber Heard is barely in this. Um, and you can't tell me that her legal troubles did not affect. There's no way somebody wrote this script for Amber Heard pre legal troubles. Bullshit. Shit. This script feels like how you would try to write someone out of a film, but you can't because they're integral to some plot, right? So, but and you don't want to recast it because you don't want to seem, so you're stuck. So you try to minimize their screen presence as much as humanly possible. So she doesn't like go on the adventures. Instead, he's on an adventure with Patrick Wilson the whole time, Aquaman and Ohm, and she's just, it's like, where's Amber Heard? I don't know. This is awful. It was over there. I don't know. Just doing her thing. Huh? Yeah, it's clear that, I mean, her screen time from the first to second film is so dramatically reduced. It's it's almost offensive, actually. I would, I can't really think of a comp to it, of a character that just went from, oh my god, and then the whole, oh, to, oh, holy shit, I'm barely here. Just like that quickly. Um Obviously I'm a blind film critic, so I can't debate with you guys about how great these visual effects do or do not look. And sadly, even though I've heard multiple critics troll a film for its you know, clear product placement in terms of Guinness, I I John Bentley is not keeping track of all the Guinnesses that are throughout the film. It's not like a secret drinking game for us on the other end. Every time he says Guinness, remember to take a drink. Usually brand names don't make it into unless they're integral to the plot, into the audio description. So I guess there's a lot of Guinness in this. I don't know. I can neither confirm nor deny the presence of Guinness throughout this film. That post-credit sequence is so dumb. It's I considered actually lowering the grade of the film. I'm just gonna be real honest. The post-credit sequence feels like DC was like, your film has no future, so you can't hint that it does, but you have to have a post-credit sequence. And James is like, can I reference maybe like a different franchise, sort of like what they did with Shazam and Suicide Squad? No, no, you have to do one of those dumb things that occasionally happens in a Marvel movie. Remember when they all sat down for shawarma? That was better than this. It's Patrick Wilson eating a cockroach. I'm not even I'm literally I don't care. It's not a spoiler. There's nothing about that that's a spoiler. Like I'll just save you the time. When the film ends, peace out. Just fucking leave. First of all, John Bentley doesn't describe the credits other than the credit sequence, so all you'd be waiting for would be to hear him say, "The film has been described by Deluxe, voiced by John Bentley." I've already told you that. So basically, when the movie is over, just leave it. Because all it is Patrick Wilson is eating a burger. He sees a cockroach on the table, grabs the cockroach, puts it in the burger, and chomps down. That's the fucking scene. So I just talk about James Wan knowing the writing is on the wall and just being like, well, I wanted to do. Fuck it, I guess. It would be better if they didn't have a post-credit sequence, but then people would be sitting there waiting for one, which is not fair. So it's awful. It's a dumb sequence. I don't know. We've got yeah. Uh, there's is this film great? No, it's not. It's clearly a step down, and that's what's true of everything but Guardians. I actually thought Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was fantastic. I've in all of my for those of you who are true to this channel, true believers, um, and have actually been seeing my best of 2023 lists. I've had Guardians listed many times. I loved Guardians. I thought it was great. Across the Spider-Verse is another comic book film. So when people are like, comic book films are dead, no. DC films seem to be, though. They seem to be waving the right white flag. Um, and what is true is I think every film that was released that was a sequel was worse than the film that came before it. The only one that I would really question would be the Marvels, but it's sort of it's like a different thing because they've incorporated now it's also like the feature version for Miss Marvel, and it becomes its own thing, and she's really good in it. So it's maybe only like slightly disappointing, slightly less. I actually liked the Marvels. I know I'm a weirdo. Um, but a large part of the reason why I liked it was Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. So I would maybe give that a pass as being necessarily worse because maybe it is for the Brie Larson universe, but for the Kamala Khan universe, where I didn't like her show as much as I liked her presence in the film. I thought they gave her more to do in the film. That film still has a terrible villain. It's debatable. Anyway, I'm talking about the Marvels way more in the Aquaman. But yeah, Shazam to Shazam Fury of the Gods, that's a downgrade. Ant-Man 2 to Ant-Man 3, that's a downgrade. This from Aquaman, it's a downgrade. And honestly, Blue Beetle was not that strong of a start. It just isn't. I don't know if it's because, again, DC was giving up on films, and they were just like, well, why didn't you take a tax write off of these? Like what? I don't know. It's just weird. Anyway, um, but yeah, this definitely feels like we gave up the movie. So I surrender the film. Um, and it's not going to be memorable. And I appreciate the fact that they did try to finish and close out the story. I probably would not have given Patrick Wilson nearly the screen time, but I think what happened is Patrick Wilson was not meant to have this screen time, but they couldn't have Amber Heard in all these scenes, so they gave some of Amber Heard's scenes to Patrick Wilson and then rewrote where Amber Heard comes in and comes out. So, yeah, I think that's what happened, to be totally honest. Um, but it's a shame. I like Jason Momoa's Aquaman, and I would challenge James Gunn to use him in something and to see what he can do with it, because I don't think the problem is the actor. Just like I don't think Zachary Levi is the problem with Shazam. Um, I think these actors are cast appropriately in franchises that just aren't working. So if James Gunn really is the mastermind that he thinks he is, he should be able to take these actors who work really well in their parts and use them. We shall see if he does that. Um, all roads seem to point towards no more Momoa. If he's willing to cut Gal Gadot, who was an excellent Wonder Woman, out of his universe, I can't imagine he wouldn't cut Jason Momoa. So, yeah, I don't know. So this would have been, if we're going to have a debate about studio interference and coming in on a high horse and being like, oh, we need to talk about something, should have been this film, because this is an exact perfect example of studio interference. This is exactly the studio's not just interfering on a creative level, likely, but also interfering with like this laissez-faire marketing, like being like, it's the end of an era for DC, but look forward to our new DC films. Like nobody was excited for this because they weren't even excited to release their own film. So anyway, the audio description's fine. It's the same thing as the first film. My biggest comment out of the last film was when they're underwater, I need more mentions of fish. And yeah, there's like king, I don't know, there's like a crab king and I don't know fish. I'm not a marine biologist. There are a couple of kings that probably hail from different sea creatures that are represented here, likely by voice talent. That's why I think Martin Short isn't here. And yeah, I need more fish. That's just in general. When we're underwater, I just need to know that there are more fish, more comments, just general about fish swimming around, because there's so much that loses the effect. There's too many humans in here, and sometimes they like to walk around while they're underwater. So it just kind of, you're like, am I underwater? Are we underwater? Where are we? It feels very odd sometimes. But no, that's really the only thought that I have. Otherwise, I thought the audio description was fine. But rest in peace, Amber Heard's film career. So, yeah, I thought this was about as good as Shazam: Fury of the Gods. But that scene is testing my patience. So what I'm going to do here is I'm putting it below, because that is, I can't fucking deal with that scene, that dumbass credit sequence. If I was in the theaters and I waited for that, I'd been so upset. I'm like, get sat here for this damn fucking cockroach scene. Anyway, I'm leaving Aquaman in the Lost Kingdom. I'm gonna give it a C. Yeah, I gave Shazam C plus. Ant-Man 3 got a B minus from me. Blue Beetle got a C plus. It was not a great year for comic book films, and this is coming from somebody who generally enjoys them. It takes a lot for me to not like them. The Eternals. Basically, it's been a long time since I've trashed a comic book film, and it was The Eternals. I'll give most films a pass, just because they're in my genre and I like this stuff and I can find enjoyment in simply watching this. But this is a bit of a struggle, and um, instead of debating about the moral repercussions of Madam Web, which is going on to have, there's a Venom 3, there's a Kraven the Hunter. They continue to mine this Sony universe. So it's not like they're under promoting Madam Web and putting it out there for it to die. It's not what's happening. That's exactly what happened here. This should have been the studio interference debate, not the other film. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will watch something else. I have a website, Mac Movie Guy. X threads or Instagram at Mac Movie Guy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know more about John Bentley and what else he has done narration for. I will see you guys on the other side.